All right. Good Monday morning, everyone. It is Matt and Mary Beth with you here today for our MREA series. It is 11 a.m. And so it's time to get going. It's June 1st, Mary Beth. Can you?
Oh my goodness. We started this back in March.
Yeah. It's crazy because I woke up this morning and I got this like New York Yankee daily calendar thing that I flip every morning. I was like, wow, it's June 1st. I think because of just COVID and everything, I've kind of lost track of the day and the time and everything, and it's June.
It's June. But yeah, it's only June. It's only
Yeah.
June 1st. We're not in August. I mean, we do take a look at a chunk of the year that we lost physically in some places, but I don't think we really lost much
Yeah.
because we've kept the mindset going, we've kept the activities going, making sure that we're diving into this material as well. So we're not just sharing it, we're also relearning it, and
Yep.
and we have some really great things that are coming up for Keller Williams Prosperity in the next couple of weeks. And our agents have done extremely well during this time, really.
Absolutely. And I guess a question for you, and because I want to hear your opinion because you're really good at doing like the you know business planning clinics, mid-year business planning clinics, and maybe we'll even do one, in July since we're about at the halfway point through the year. What would you say? Because in your experience, when I've seen them done, when I've helped lead them, I've seen you lead them. It's usually a very 6 months, January to July. There was no COVID. There's no like. It's like this is where you are with your goals. What advice would you give to people right now who are looking at, okay, we are halfway through the year. How are we going to look at that business planning clinic? What's some advice for you before we actually might do one maybe next month?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, definitely have to do a mid-year clinic for sure
Yeah.
this year because it's just a different temperature, what you're expecting and what you're planning. Yet it doesn't mean your goals need to change. It's just how you get to them may need to change. In some of the previous interviews and just talking with some of our top agents and agents everywhere, they're not really changing their goals. They really are just pivoting. They understand that they may have lost a month of downtime, a month of figuring it out, a month of people maybe not so being attentive. And yet 1 month is like a bad snowstorm month, right? We're in New Jersey, for those of you who are watching on Facebook and don't have snowstorms,
Yeah.
or those of you who are in Minnesota or Michigan who have tons of snowstorms
Yeah.
and they just feel that is their climate.
Yeah.
When, in our area, when we get hit with like a heavy January or February snow, it puts
Yeah.
everybody kind of out of commission. And it's a mindset that people adopt. We didn't have that. We haven't had that in 2 years.
Yeah.
So if we look at this last couple months, kind of like that, we can absolutely recover from it. And so when I'm saying, the question you're asking is like what people can do in business planning for the last 7 months. We don't have 6 months. We have 7 months left in the year.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage you to take a look at a 5-month plan, a 4 to a 5-month plan to ensure those get closed for the year. And I would just revisit the goals that you set for 2020.
Yep.
And let's just look at those exact goals with
Mm-hmm.
the new set of eyes, with the new temperature, with a new hunger.
Yep.
Because I believe through this time, a lot of people have found why they need to go out there and make this business work. Before it was a little comforting.
Yep.
And now, some people have been stripped from sales that were in
Yep.
the pipeline.
Yep.
And it's like, what do I do? Do I
Yep.
pivot and plunge ahead, or do I run away and go into a different direction? And I urge you not to run away, because the next direction isn't any easier than the one that you can just go forward with where you are.
Absolutely. And I think, your interview with Ron last Friday really exemplified that. I mean, you were talking about just, your goals might have to change a little, but it doesn't mean you have to like completely go off the rails and completely modify it. And I think Ron did a good job of just explaining how, he's still doing that commit challenge, the 3 note cards a day, the gratitude, the mindset, just, all that stuff, the fruit of that is now starting to deliver. And, I think he said it on the call, he expects the fall to be, maybe swapping spring and the fall, like what normally would be the spring will now be the fall, and then vice versa.
And yeah, Bill and I were talking about, when 2020 is done, like really assessing, did we flip-flop those two markets in the
Yep.
Jersey area? And I say Jersey because with the four-season market, right? Four-season market is very different than year-round Florida weather or year-round Michigan weather.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just encourage people to understand what you're committed to, right?
Absolutely.
So if it's family, loyalty, providing, if it's just something that you want to accomplish yourself. I mean, some people know, for me, I intend on becoming a Keller Williams University master faculty.
Yep.
And I just am going to keep working towards that and put myself in the room with the people who are in that position, or
Yep.
put myself at least in the room with other people who are attempting to get there.
Yep.
And then, of course, put myself in the room with people who are there and that could help me along the way. So if you have a goal there, it's like, well, I want to do 20 transactions, or
Yep.
I intend to build a 7th level team.
Yep.
Are you in any of Bill Boswell's courses? Have
Yep.
you taken a class from Teresa? Are you in coaching with Eric?
Yep.
Because Matt and I can't help you if you're not willing to at least take first steps towards lots of stuff that's available to you.
Absolutely. And no, absolutely. And I think you really hit the nail on the head. And now I think as we dive into the book material, we left off on Thursday last week on page 240. So we're right now in the net a million phase. And specifically, we're in the net a million leverage section. So we did the net a million. There's 16 challenges that will take place between earn a million and net a million. We've done the first 10 last week, which was really net a million in the lead section and net a million in the listing section. And now we're in the net a million leverage section. And I think, and regardless of whether we're looking at leverage or we're just looking at somebody's individual business, I think right now with this market disruptor that was COVID, number 11 is very important for anyone, which is achieving accountability to the right standards. So it's really identifying what are the standards in your business, what makes your business you, and what makes it work. And so I think now has been a good time to really set up a lot of these systems to really move forward. So on page 240, it says Webster's defines a standard as a means of determining what a thing should be. So Gary goes on to say, if standards define what we will accept, then in no small measure our standards define who we are. In the same way, our business standards will define our business. So the first thing that he talks about is really, what do customers want? So, what standard of service do customers expect, and then what do they receive from you? And ultimately, the best way to measure a standard, and I think this is kind of where the next couple pages are going, is that any standard that can be defined can almost certainly be duplicated by another. So it's critical that your standards are duplicatable? It can be duplicated. Yeah, so it can be duplicated. So as you're hiring people or bringing other people on, your standards are something that can be duplicated by someone else.
So what that means is that somebody has a unique gift in your world. That's great, and they do something extra special, and the way that they show houses or the way that it's their own.
Yep.
You want to challenge that and say, that's awesome, and let's document and let's systemize what that experience is, how you actually provide that. And that would be through, your systems docs and thinking things through, which we don't like to do, but we've been talking about the tech audit, right? So we have a tech audit here and it wasn't because of COVID, it was more because technology has been really coming into our business. Artificial intelligence, Google, Facebook, all the different social media. And so thinking about what kind of experience we want our clients to have is taking the technology piece out of it. And so if some of you already have things running, it it may be easier or harder to actually think this through. Some of you who just have an idea of how you'd like things to be running, this would probably be a little easier, is create the best model for you. You know, think about what kind of experience you have as a customer when you're looking for shoes online, or if you're looking for the best cabinets to order, and so now you're going to use multiple sites to see what kind of style you want, and then price points, and so put yourself in the customer's shoes. Now they're looking for a home, and what are all the things that they need to look at while they're trying to find the right agent, the right house. And so I think prior to COVID, it was really, we were pushing on our agents to think that through and think through, what did it feel like when you spoke to that person? Then what did you do? Did you email them? Well, then I text messaged them, and then I set them up in this system. So if you don't think, oh, I don't have a big enough business to create systems and standards, yes, you do. At the beginning of a business, you should always be thinking about, if I'm going to launch my business, how do I want my customer to feel? Because the ultimate goal is that the customer is going to come back. Forget about real estate. It's any business, period. So why we wouldn't do that now, you know, it's part of what we're doing.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, that also translates into our world as a leadership team. You know, when we're looking at, you know, Gary writes, until a process has been documented, you haven't standardized it. So, you know, it brings me back to, you know, here in Wayne, of course, but also when I was in Morristown, I know we would go through each of our, essentially our tasks. So like for our sales rally, we had a checklist where it would say on the first of every month, the director of first impressions would send out a calendar invite to everyone. A flyer would go out week 2. We'd, you know, have the PowerPoint done by this point, and there was a checklist, so that way everyone knew that, you know, what needed to get done, number one. But number 2, and more importantly, is when you get leverage and bring someone in the role, let's say they want to take a month-long trip to Europe, or let's say they, which traveling right now, not many people want to do, but, you know, if somebody leaves the position, if somebody were to leave the role and you're then left without that role and you need to hire for it, once you hire the new talent, you're not reinventing the wheel each time, because you have an operations manual of like, okay, this is what needs to get done. So the same happens in the business. And I know Teresa does really good open houses. And so with Teresa, she literally has everything mapped out as to where the open house signs go, where, you know, how people are signing in, to how the tours are operated. And that's just an example of a documented system.
Well, and then the follow-up process, and then where they get placed, and you know, so if you, that's a great activity. If you were just to think about, what is your open house process, and do you have that written down? Is it systemized? Because before you could even start using any of these technology tools to help you figure out what you want it to do, you need to figure out what you want it to do and when you want it to do it.
Well, and that's where, you know, most agents are not going to be gifted in the systems oriented side of things. A lot of times it's more the kind of high D, high I behavior, less so the S and the C behavior. So obviously you have to understand, do the best you can. And then that's where, once you get the leverage, people that you're hiring can use those systems, but then kind of poke holes in some of them or say, hey, this might be an easier way to do that.
Yes, and there's no excuse to say, well, I am not there yet, my business isn't big enough. That, I don't want to hear that. You are a business owner the minute that you have your real estate license. If you don't know what you want your business to look like, somebody else is going to run it, and that is going to be the clients or nobody, and you're going to be out of business. So this is part of being a real estate professional, is understanding the way you can work with clients, and then the system and service that you can put behind it. And so when you are at a position, because we do have quite a few agents that are running 20 plus transactions a year, there's also that other sector of our agent count that you'll have a struggle to break through to that next level. If, to Matt's point, is if you want to go on a vacation for a month, or if you get sick, God forbid, or if you just decide that there's another opportunity and it's in Africa, you want to pick up and leave, and then you can do the right thing by your team, by wherever, and you can leave. Here's how we were doing it, and here's what just has to happen in order for everybody to still feel the same service.
Yep. Yep. And exactly. And it reminded me, there was a story in this section, I forget exactly what page it's on. I think it's 241 or 242, but they talk about a guy named Bob Carter who he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he was given just a short amount of time to live. And they determined, here it is, subsequently discovered, was that while the first version of the program was comprehensively documented, many of the fixes and features added along the way had been documented only in shorthand, so things that only Bob Carter could read. So he was great, because even though he only was given a short time to live, he still supported and helped and said, hey, this is, this was what the shorthand meant. Yet, you have to realize that that may not be the situation that you have, and it may not be something like that. It could be just somebody looking at another opportunity, maybe somebody moving to Africa, like you said. And in that instance, you need to make sure all of your systems are documented.
So you're not putting the business at risk.
Correct.
You're not putting what you've already built at risk, because you're systemizing everything. And you realize if you want to unplug yourself, it's just a matter of finding someone who did what you did inside the organization, so that you can stand outside it and watch it still receive earnings. Yep. And it can continue to grow. You made a comment there, and I was thinking about something. I forget what it
was. Well, it was really just being inside the business and really documenting your systems, because you just don't know whether somebody has their own shorthand, and we've all seen that. We've all seen.
Okay, I know what I was going to say is, it happens in any sector of our world too. Our pastor was just talking about how he is not going to be here in 100 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that people say, oh, 100 years, who cares who's here in 100 years? Well, your grandchildren are going to be here in 100 years. Your children will be here in 100 years, possibly. Things that you built that you're proud of should be here in 100 years from now. And what about 400 years? I mean, so if you have something that you're building, you're putting your time into, and you want to see that it survives beyond you, then you have to have a systems manual to be able to, here's the operations manual, turn it over. So even in our church, it's a matter of, making sure all of our ministries have that kind of documentation, so that somebody can pick up the baton and carry it. It's all about passing that baton. And in business, you may not realize that you would ever be ready to leave the sales part of the business. And yet within 3 years, you could get yourself to a position where it would probably be in your best interest to get yourself out of it and go on to other opportunities. So big conversation. We were in the end of the book, which is big thinking, huge thinking. It's creating 2.4 million in commissions to net 1 million. And that's with you not in it. So these are big conversations. If you need some more time to go deeper with this and you want to reach out to MREA, please do so.
Yeah, no, let us know. And I think, the next part of this section, page 244, and we don't need to dive too deep.
We can probably get into that tomorrow just because of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. With 244, it's really just documenting the steps that it goes through. So if you have the book in front of you, definitely go through these. But really, step one, and this is kind of homework, I guess you could say, and we could see maybe how you guys do with this. But step one is take out a notepad and write down all the things you do as bullet points. So from answering phones, showing homes, creating ads, CMAs, open houses, all the things that you do in your business. Mm-hmm. Then break them down into categories. So, whether that's communications, buyers, sellers, writing contracts, doing the marketing, and then move down and go into, break it down and say, okay, when you're answering the phones, what do you say on the phone? Like you say, hey, good afternoon. This is
for that. It's a great day, Keller Williams. Can I help you?
Exactly.
Right. So that's our script. What is your script? Hi, Mary Beth Olive speaking. Can I help you?
Yep.
That's it. You just write that.
Exactly. And that's the standard. And that's, anyone else in the role is going to answer the phone.
And those kind of things, they're making great point. Take 244 seriously. Take a look at it so we can have a deep discussion about it. And you take that for granted, because if you're not answering the phones, how are you sure that your customer is getting greeted the same way you were greeting them? That was something I totally overlooked in the beginning of my leadership journey.
Yep.
Is the importance of, wait, they don't ask the same questions that I ask. They don't greet them with a energy up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to stand up so that your energy's up.
Yep.
Those are little tricks you're going to teach somebody who now replaces you in answering the phone in your business, that you didn't realize you had to teach somebody that.
Well, and even just a step further with that, it's even little things like, maybe you make sure you answer the phone in under 3 rings, or 3 rings or less. So things like that are important to just itemize out. So go as deep as you possibly can and to the minutia, because that's what's going to really separate this from someone else's. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be a good place to stop, just because this will be your homework really for tomorrow, and then we'll pick it back up here, page 244 and 245, on tomorrow's call at 11.
And tomorrow, why don't we open it up? Maybe some of us can get on the Zoom link so that we can open it up and have some discussion about what you found when you slowed down and actually thought this through. And Matt, maybe we can put a challenge out there inside of our agent group that we'd like for them to come on and participate tomorrow. Because if they're not slowing down to do this, they're going to have a real challenge when they're setting up their opportunities inside of Command.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll definitely put that out there. I'll attach it to the link that we have out there, and then we'll pick this back up tomorrow. And then at 1 o'clock, we'll be back here with John Rondi.
Awesome.
I'll see you in a bit.